It's time to talk Padres baseball.
This place is electric.
Our 97.3 The Fan staff is together to break down everything, both on and off the field, with the San Diego Padres in our commercial-free Epic Padres Roundtable, sponsored by Epic Wings. Buckle up, Friar Faithful. We've got a lot to discuss. Now, here's your host, Ben Higgins.
We are underway, another commercial-free hour of Padres talk. It's our Epic Wings, Epic Padres Roundtable on 97.3 The Fan, brought to you by Epic Wings, always fresh, never frozen. And what a treat we have today, alongside usual panelists Chris Ello, Braden Soprenet, and Stephen Woods. Let's say hello to the legend himself, the Padres Hall of Famer, Uncle Teddy. Ted Leitner is with us. Ted, it is so good to see you. Thanks for coming in.
Boys.
Don't forget your microphone.
Yeah. Excuse me. Is this how you're supposed to talk into it?
Yeah.
I've lost all my skill set. I've retired. I've lost all my skill set. But like your advertiser, I am indeed fresh and not frozen.
There we go. That's good. Eventually all of us will be frozen. But
no, it is.
That's a good response, Ted, but I was hoping for something more along the lines of bite me.
Yeah,
you, sir, are a moron. I would never say anything like that on the air, ever. And if you think I said it, you're incorrect.
Teddy, we'd love to have you in with the Padres rolling on a 10-game winning streak, but unfortunately, that is not the case. We all know that the team has been struggling, especially on offense. So I'll start us out today. Dennis Lynn posed an interesting question, a little bit rhetorical in The Athletic this week, but I'll give it to our panel to start the show. Are the Padres the worst good team in baseball right now, or are they the best bad team in baseball right now with their 7 games above 500? And does it really matter that we classify them one way or the other, Teddy?
Yeah, but calling them a bad team, I think that hurts. And they have not been a bad team for a long time. So that's unfair, I think. And I like Dennis a lot. He's a terrific writer. And I thought that when he was on the beat, when I was still broadcasting ball games. Now, I just think they're like everybody else, as we 47 times a week on the broadcast would always say, why did that happen? Why is this happening? 2 words. That's baseball. I mean, it really is. You're going to slump. It's nice to not have a collective slump, but I mean, there are definite problems here that are scary problems. And is Manny? Is Manny going to be Manny again? Is Tati? And these are my 2 favorite players, by the way, now, and 2 of my favorites of all time over those 41 years broadcasting. I love those 2 guys. So the idea that you look at the pull side and whether Tatis is getting around on fastballs, and it matters more now in that stat than it did 20 years ago, because 20 years ago, you didn't have, 4 guys in every bullpen that throw 100 miles an hour or more, and starters that go 97, 98. So when you're not pulling the fastball out of here like you did, and that's a large concern, and Manny is a concern. And then it would be okay if you're dealing with just those 2, but that's enormous. That's your 2 best players, your 2 best hitters. But you got, Jackson Merrill has slid down. Cronenworth is not doing it. So it's just a collective slump, but I've seen them before. I broadcast when they had them.
1 or 2?
Yes. Yeah. It's part of baseball. But again, it's not a great lineup to begin with. We never said that. And I go to the Phillies game on Memorial Day, and I'm seeing Trey Turner lead off, and then Schwarber, and then Harper. And I'm thinking, wow, Now that's a lineup. And Jerry Coleman and I did that for 1,000 years when the Padres were not good and they were a bad team. And we'd make out our scorecards, and Jerry would say, we got no chance. and I shouldn't be saying that, but it's true. Look at their starter. Look at our starter. Look at our shortstop. 42 hoppers get past him. Look at their shortstop. It's Nomar Garcia-Parra. That kind of thing. So I went through that era. That makes me appreciate these teams much better because they're good.
And we know, Teddy's been watching Padres baseball since the late 70s. None of us can compete. But, Chris, you've been in this market since, the early 90s, watching a lot of Padres baseball and a lot of bad teams. And those bad teams, I remember what they look like. There were errors. There was incompetent baseball. There was bad base running, bad decisions, guys who didn't have their heads in the game. So I don't call this is not a bad baseball team.
No.
This is a good baseball team that is not hitting right now is what I see.
Yeah, I think what Ted was trying to say there, too, is he saw a couple of hitting slumps. One of them was the 1970s. I think the whole
entire decade, right? The decade
the
was
whole
right.
decade,
Good
yeah,
point.
or even the '80s to a certain extent after the championship season of '84. Yeah, I can't call them a bad team at all. I mean, there's so many good teams, quote good teams, that are really having really bad years. I mean, the Tigers are sitting at the bottom of their division. They're supposed to be in the World Series, and I mean, obviously the Mets has been documented. So. Now, this is what it is right now. I think that, I'm trying to look at it from the perspective of they still won 3 games on this homestand despite hitting 182. They still won 3 games on this homestand despite the fact in 9 games they had 1 hit that drove in a run besides home runs. Home runs accounted for almost all their scoring on this homestand. 1 hit. Gavin Sheets had a 2-run single in the A's game a week ago Friday.
And the other hit with a runner in scoring position didn't drive in a run.
Right. I'm just saying.
From second to third.
It's incredible. I mean, just a simple guys on second, you get jammed, bloop it over the infield, and a run scores. They can't even do that right now. But they're still finding a way to hang in there and keep their head above water. And you just got to believe, because you can't trade the whole team, so these guys have got to come out of it.
Braden, fundamentally in your mind, if you have to put a label on it, is this a good team or is this a bad team?
I think they're a good team. I think their pitching staff shows that they're a good team. I think their bullpen is obviously, and we don't need to say it too much because they are one of the best in Major League Baseball and have the best ERA in the month of May in Major League Baseball. So I think they're a good team. I think they're going through a slump right now. They did the exact same thing last year in May. Last year in May, they went 500. And then in June, they had a losing record. And then they went off and then had a couple of winning months. And in July, August, and September, they have kind of had this little bit of a stretch in the last handful of years, especially the years that they've made the postseason. So I mean, this happens. You're going to get some slumps. And I just look at the teams like the other teams throughout the National League that are good teams, and they've all had bad stretches already to a certain extent. I mean, you look at the Cubs. They've had 2 10-game winning streaks and a 10-game losing streak. And going into last night's game, they were they found their way into last place. Now, in the NL Central, winning record puts you in last place, but they're dealing with their own problems as well. So I think a lot of teams are dealing with issues right now. You're going to see that, and right now the Padres are part of their slump. I don't think this will continue the entire year. And if I had to pick a time, which you don't get to pick before the season, of when you're going to slump, I'd rather have it be in May than in August or September going into the postseason.
And Uncle Teddy, I made the point on our show this morning, and I'm not comparing these Padres to any other teams, but the 1984 team, they went through a big slump, if I remember. The 1998 team had an epic June swoon. Even good teams do look bad, especially at the plate, over stretches of the season.
And to use that and say that's baseball is not an excuse, because it is. The game, as Bart Giamatti said, the game is designed to drive you crazy. I mean, as a fan, executive, ball player. I remember when Jeff Kent retired, and it was such a bizarre news conference. It was like, I'm retiring, and thank God. And people thought, what are you talking about? You have no idea what this game is like. The pressure. And the game is so difficult to play, and all the other things we know about. The great ones fail 7 out of 10 times at the plate. This game will bring you to your knees. So Kent said, I've succeeded. I've been an all-star. Some people think I might be a Hall of Famer, but you have no idea the stress that I've been. I'm not complaining. The money was great. But that is baseball. It is singularly with one person, is that way as a team. I've seen it for a million years, and other people have been in it longer than me had seen it. And as Braden mentioned, look at this year. The Phillies were really struggling. The Astros have been horrible. So the Mets, as he mentioned, and they're starting to make their moves now, and they're getting to where they'd been, 8 games under 500. They're a game under 500 now. It is absolutely cyclical. It is in baseball. And yes, the Padres are concerned because there's no Musgrove, and that changes so much on the pitching side. You lose Darvish. You have to have Joe competes. I remember facing him when he's with the Pirates, and I thought to myself, at that time I had not met him, and I thought, God, this guy competes. He is something else. This is a leader. This is a great clubhouse guy, and you're missing a gigantic part of your heart. And that happened last year, and they've been able to overcome that, and that has been a big problem. So you need to hit more, and basically it's Sheets and Andujar that are hitting. Now, that's a collective slump. It does not continue for long periods of time going by baseball being baseball.
I'll add the Mariners to your list. They were so bad.
Right.
They lost every single game to the Padres this
Right.
year, and they're back in first place.
Absolutely,
Now, every team in that division, Braden, has a losing record, unlike the NL Central, where they all have a winning record. Woods, you can be emotional like fans.
I'm
Is your
better
heart-
now than I used to
a
be.
little better, but
Yeah.
what does your heart tell you about this team? Good team fundamentally, or not good team fundamentally? What does your heart tell you?
They make me insane. They make me insane because I know
There's
these.
Bart Giamatti again.
I know these. I know these players. You know them. You cover them. You love them. You root for them. Your kids adore them. Right. And in the case of my house, all those guys that are struggling right now are absolutely adored in my home by my children. Adored. And you hate to see them go through it. So I'm going to reserve hope that they pull out of it. That's really my only option as a fan. I'm not going to not watch, even if this continues. I'm still going to be there. I'm still going to be watching. I would regardless, but because I love the game, I love the team. But yeah, man, a team is the thing that we're forgetting, right? And some of the, you hate to say lesser than members were carrying this team for a while. Once those guys have fallen off a little bit, it's really hard to maintain. And you're seeing a little bit of that right now, but I have hope.
It's our Epic Wings, Epic Padres Roundtable. Epic Wings, always fresh, never frozen, just like Ted Leitner, as he mentioned. But you know what? You joke
To this point.
Well, it is freezing in here.
You
Just
joked when
FYI.
we came in, older gentlemen. And this is something that we haven't really talked much about with the Padres. They have the third oldest roster in Major League Baseball. Do you guys think that age in any way is playing a part in some of the struggles that we're seeing? Do they need some new blood, younger blood? Now, to be fair, Jackson Merrill's plenty young. He's struggling. Fernando Tatis Jr. in his prime, he's been struggling. So it's not everybody, but they do have an older roster. Is that now, Braden, a problem for the San Diego Padres?
I don't think so. I mean, I don't know what the numbers are. Do you know where the Dodgers are on that list? Because they got a lot of old veteran players that are kind of their core too, and
When it works, it's very savvy.
Right, exactly. Yeah,
very
so
savvy.
maybe everybody should have older teams and be like the Dodgers, but I don't think that's the case. And I think you mentioned it, Ben. I mean, Jackson Merrill and Fernando are two of the younger players in Major League Baseball, and you mentioned Tatis is in his prime years now at 27, and Jackson Merrill, one of those young pieces. I mean, you could go with whatever path you want. You can have a young, talented team, but that team usually runs out of gas at some point during a season in Major League Baseball where you do need that veteran experience. I don't think anything that's with the Padres slumps right now has to do with age. When you look at their metrics, and we've talked about this a lot, obviously, when we have to dissect the same thing over and over again for 4 straight hours for 5 days a week, you start to look at some of the metrics, and a lot of their swing speeds and the aging metrics, if you will, are still locked into what they were, maybe a little bit less from their prime, like the Xander Bogaerts and Manny Machados, but still up at elite levels. So I don't think it's an age thing. I just think it's the the time of the year where, unfortunately for the Padres, they got multiple guys struggling at the same time.
Chris, I do wonder, maybe fringe guys like Nick Castellanos starting to show his age, and I'm not sure if he's going to make it to the end of the season on this roster. If he doesn't hit a little more consistently defensively, he's a liability. There may be some opportunities for the Padres to try to get a little bit younger as this season goes on.
I've been looking at everything like everyone else, and so I went down to the minor league roster there at El Paso to see what I could find, and of course the top guy there is Bowen. He's got all these home runs. He's also struck out 53 times and 110 at bats or something. So
Strikes out a lot.
if he's striking out almost 50% of the time in AAA, I mean, are we ready to turn a spot over to him? And so, I mean, I don't have a lot of answers like that. I don't want to pick on Castellanos any more than I already have this year. To me, he's given us a few clutch hits. Hopefully he can give us a few more. I don't have any great answers, but one thing I have discovered looking around baseball, and I think some of us have seen this now, the last horrible hitting season throughout baseball was before the Padres existed. It was 1968, the year of the pitcher, and the team batting average throughout baseball that year was 237. The Detroit Tigers won the World Series and hit 225. The next year, they lowered the mound to make it more fair. This year, the batting average across baseball is only 2 points higher than that, 239. the Yankees are hitting 220 against starting pitching, and they're the Yankees. So this is trending a little bit in that direction. It's hitting us a little harder, though, than the other teams.
So you're saying lower the mound?
Yes.
That's what we're looking for again.
Don't lower the age, lower the mound.
Why have a mound? Just have it flat.
Teddy,
flat ground.
You've seen Padres teams that were still wet behind the ears. You've seen experienced teams like the 84 team with Nettles and Garvey.
Yeah.
Generally, it's the experienced teams. The older, that is usually a good thing in Major League Baseball when you have players who know what they're doing and have been around the block a little bit.
Incredibly important. And you do need a mix if you can get that mix. And AJ has done that, has tried to do that, and everybody does in terms of setting up a roster. And they would like to mix in young guys. Everybody does. But you got to have the veterans. You do. Totally young teams are not going to win unless they have, a Glavine, a Smoltz, and a Maddox kind of a thing. And nobody does. So I think, for me, it really is a perspective. It isn't age. It isn't how many years I broadcast. It was a lot of bad teams and a lot of bad baseball. And we broadcast that baseball, and our job was to make it sound on radio that it was, competitive and it was good. I thought as a broadcaster, it was also my job to point out, since the radio guy is your eyes and ears, and this didn't start back then, they had radios in the stadium. That was not the case early on in my career. So that kind of thing of, hey, that ball's got to be caught. Or normally, and I would say things like, normally that, a shortstop will get that, but that's a 42 hopper that goes for a base hit with the Padres shortstop. And they didn't like me for saying that. And a lot of the fans didn't like me, but I thought it was incumbent upon me to say that. And it didn't make me very popular, but I thought I had to be honest. And I'm telling you, there were some bad teams. We had an outfielder that Bob Ochinko, one of the pitchers, said, when asked about him, he is pretty decent at picking up a ground ball when it stops rolling. That's his own teammate. That's his own teammate. We had a guy who was said to be replacing when Dave Winfield was going to go to the Yankees, or going somewhere. They hadn't said the Yankees yet. I went on Channel 8 and I said, they're going to put him in there instead of Winfield. And I said, let me caution you that when you enter a Volkswagen at the Indy 500, you better know a hell of a shortstop. You better know a hell of a shortcut and that kind of thing. And I got very unpopular with the players for saying those things, but they were bad teams. So that's why my perspective on a team that's got a Manny Machado, I go back to free agency. He was a done deal with the Phillies and the White Sox. Manny's going there. San Diego Padres, they're not in the deal. They're not in the mix for Manny Machado. All that stuff is ancient history that I was part of. Now they acquire a Tatis and give him $300 million. Now they have a Manny. Then they got the pitching, and they picked up Darvish and King and all those guys. To me, this is the golden age of Padre baseball, with a few individual, like you mentioned, Ben, in terms of 84 and 96. And even like you mentioned, 84, 96 right before the All-Star break, boom, 5-game losing streak. Oh my God, what's happening? 84, the second half of 84, the worse they played, and they played bad, the further ahead they went, because the division, even with the Reds and the Braves, was bad. It was a great time for the Padres to be dominant. So I've seen all these slumps, and I've seen them in 98. So my theory is a guy who saw the really, really bad, and I forget who it was, that they picked up a shortstop. And I said on the air that Padres need a shortstop in the worst way. And this guy is a shortstop in the worst way.
That sounds like
that got me
Andrew
that got me a call from the CEO at the station and reminded me, we're paying you to broadcast the games. I know, but it's my audience on Channel 8. And that's not a Padre audience. I've got to be honest.
That's elite.
I want to stop down because this is a topic I wanted to broach. I mentioned it to Woods on the show today. All of us, Chris, Braden, Woods, Tony Gwynn Jr., myself, get called shills for the team. We can't be honest. The fans want us to rip the team more when they're not playing well. I personally, I'm not afraid to call out bad ball playing when I see it. If they're making mental mistakes, I'm going to say that. I haven't seen a lot of that. What I have trouble with is yelling at them for not being able to hit. Because I know that I can't do it. No one else who's listening to this audience can even hope to go out and do it. I know how hard it is.
Yell at that table until you get water. I'm going to yell at that table until it gives me some water, because you're wasting your time. This is baseball. That's what I said. 2 words. That's baseball. They will slump individually. They will slump collectively, and they're doing it right now. And it's not a sprint. It's a marathon. It goes long. All the other cliches, but it's the old Ali used to say, if it's true, it's not a cliche, and it happens to be true. Relax. When I look at teams like this and think of the teams that Jerry and I had, like I mentioned, this is, I'll say it again, the golden age of Padre baseball. Look at the stands. Feel the atmosphere. This is a great time for Padre baseball, and I have no reason to say that.
Right.
I'm not an ambassador anymore. My love affair with them continues, including this ownership and the executives. I would not say a bad word about them now after what I've had. My entire adult life has been with the Padres, but I'm telling you the truth. It's been a great era.
But what I really want to know is back then, how did you balance it? Because you had your TV responsibilities, Leitner strikes, you had your editorials, you were outspoken. A lot of people loved you for it, but you were also a team broadcaster, and you were working for the Padres.
It's very difficult.
I mean, how did you get through it all without making everybody mad all the time? And maybe you did, but hey, you still stayed employed for decades upon decades.
juggling all the time and trying to save all these masters. And I got lucky because Joan Kroc liked me, and before that, Ray Kroc liked me, and Ray Kroc would hear me say something at 11 about, you need to get rid of that guy or something like that, and he would call Ballard Smith, the CEO, and said, hey, Leitner's right, we need to get rid of that guy. And Ballard would call me and say, listen, you and I both know you don't have a goddamn clue what you're talking about. Would you shut up? Would you please shut up? Because every time you say something like that, Ray wants me to get rid of this guy, and I'm not going to get rid of this guy. And now I have to hope that Ray doesn't remember that he told me to get rid of this guy. These are actual conversations. I had lunch with Ballard last week. And actually, a few days ago, had lunch with Ballard and other executives from the 80s. I do that all the time with San Diego State. And it's a wonderful, it's storytelling and lies, all that stuff from the old days. It's just wonderful. But it was like that. And Joan, early on, before I had that great relationship with her, she would literally call Ballard and say, do we pay him? Do we pay him? And Ballard would say, yes. Well, he just said that we were in collusion in not signing ball players. That's a reflection on me. And so when Ballard mentioned, I said, well, I love Joan, but it is a reflection on her because all the owners have gotten together and they are colluding. Yeah. And when they make an offer to Andre Dawson with the Cubs for $500,000 a year, that's called collusion. They got caught by the court. It cost them $200 million to distribute among the players. So if I lied and I was incorrect, then come see me. But what did I say that was wrong? But I used to put up with that heat all the time, and it's not comfortable. I would get it in the clubhouse, and wow. I remember in '84 when Gossage threw Barry Bloom of the Evening Tribune out of the clubhouse. And don't even think about coming back. You're banned. You're totally banned. Barry has a book that's coming out about that '84 season. I can't wait to read it. And he had to go and to the Baseball Writers of America and then go, well, I'm credentialed. They can't throw me out. And the key here was the Garv. The Garv for all his peccadillos and remember those bumper stickers? Honk of Steve Garvey's your Padre. Remember that? I love Steve, but it was so entertaining for me on the air when he was going through that situation. And I would say, look, I know these women, they love Steve. All he's trying to do is return that love, one woman at a time. So what's the big deal? But the Garv went to Gossage and said, Goose, these guys have jobs to do. They publicize this. They make us money. They're very important for the sport of baseball. Let him back in, and they did.
Wow.
I thought of your
that's a banger.
That was
amazing.
Ted,
That was
thank
amazing.
you so much. And by the way, Ted, you can say all of these criticisms and things you've heard. You've landed in the Padre Hall of Fame for a reason,
right?
And that's because you were fantastic, and we loved you and still love you. But I was thinking of like, should Craig Stammen have one of these, throw some stuff around the clubhouse and break a urinal and, get upset at a question? Billy Martin would have fought somebody by now, right?
Sure.
If they asked him, how come you're not hitting? And I thought of the greatest meltdown any manager's ever had, the 1983 Lee Elia, the Chicago Cubs. I think most of us have seen it, heard of it.
Classic.
And if you haven't, look it up. You will not be sorry. But he did that meltdown in 24 games into a season that they were off to a bad start, the Cubs. I looked that up. That Cub team finished 20 games under 500. So it doesn't necessarily work. It blows off a lot of steam, but it doesn't really change anything.
It's our Epic Wings, Epic Padres Roundtable, commercial free on 97.3 The Fan. Epic Wings, always fresh, never frozen. And Woods, I want to touch on something that Uncle Teddy said about how Ray Kroc and Joan Kroc, liked him and had his support. That is so big for us as broadcasters when we feel like the owner is going to be reasonable. Ron Fowler was like that. He wasn't afraid to criticize his own team. He wasn't afraid for us to criticize the team. Peter Seidler said, hey, let us have it. Enjoyed listening as he walked around. We didn't get to know John Seidler that much in the last couple of years, but I feel like we've been pretty lucky. Got new owners coming in. I think we can only hope that Jose Feliciano and Kwanzaa Jones have similar mentality to some of the recent owners of the San Diego Padres who have had that same perspective that it's okay to criticize. If we're playing bad ball, let us know we're playing bad ball.
I'd be lying if I said they hadn't popped in my head this week during these offensive struggles. You're looking at this going, this is what we spent all this money on? Oh, my God. No, I absolutely agree with you. Ron called me an idiot one time on text. It was great. I loved it. But he also said, no, hammer us if we deserve to be hammered. And, this team this year, there's some things you can hammer about them, but they're not in full hammer mode yet.
Teddy, there's been some good owners. There's been some less than good owners as well. Any ownership stories that you can share with us over the years from the San Diego Padres?
Wow.
Statute of limitations has expired on some of these.
And stay on the air?
Yeah.
Woo-wee.
I always love the one about Joan Kroc getting thrown in the pool. Was that true?
She got thrown in the pool by Goose Gossage, who
Goose,
if you remember, during one season when she was very much Ray was an alcoholic. I was around Ray. Ray was a nasty drunk, nasty drunk, a brilliant. Just an unbelievable, brilliant businessman. He changed the way the country eats.
Yeah.
He really did. There was no such thing as fast food. There were no drive-thrus. There were no little speakers. And so, he's a guy was an absolute visionary in his early 50s. And it was it's a great story. Just a great story. And I remember that Ray was incredible. He was so tough. We had an interview with Reggie Jackson when he first became a free agent. And he went to Baltimore, I believe it was, after Oakland first, if I may be mistaken. And he had an interview with Ray. And during that, he had wanted this salary, suite on the road instead of a regular room, no roommate. And he wanted a full-length fur coat. Now, to ask Ray Kroc this, an old-fashioned guy from Chicago, was a big mistake. So Ray breaks off those negotiations, comes out to the news conference and says, this guy, Reggie Jackson, he thinks he's God, but he's not. I am. That's Ray. That's Ray. I would sit in his office on 2A at the old stadium. He was in his wheelchair. He'd had a stroke, and I would just sit and pick his brain and learn business. And he would say, Ted, I'll tell you the secret to business in terms of competing. When your competition is drowning, stick a hose in his mouth. That's how tough he was. That's how tough he was.
Wow.
And you know the story of opening his first game ever, and he takes the microphone, and that all happened.
This
is the worst baseball playing I've ever seen in my life. Unbelievable. And then just at that time, that was a streaker. The streaker comes naked across. Get that guy. Put him in jail. Ray was such a fun guy to be around, but you never knew what the hell. And he got called for tampering. I forget, it was Gossage initially, way before we got him. It was Gossage and one other that he was saying, we need to get that Goose Gossage guy, and so on. So you're not allowed to do that. That's tampering. They fined him $100,000. So he was very much like Ted Turner, who came after him, and owners like that, and Steinbrenner. But I'm not comparing Ray to Steinbrenner or anybody to Steinbrenner. When I look at the owners I had worked for with Ray and Joan Kroc, Tom Werner, who loved baseball, bought a team at the wrong time, right after collusion, when the money was skyrocketing, and he had not planned to spend that kind of money. And then you get John Moores, who loved baseball, and it was like working for your dad. It was absolutely a family. So, and I've had the same thing. I've never had a sidler during my broadcast time, 10 years with them. Never had one sidler tell me, you shouldn't say that. You shouldn't have said this. You should say this. You should say that. Not one interference in my life. So I'm the wrong one to ask. The ownerships with the Padres, every single one of them was literally like family to me.
Let's get back to the current iteration of the San Diego Padres. The Athletic has been reporting that the Padres have been acquiring about additional bullpen arms in the trade market, including Aroldis Chapman, Josh Hader. And while I certainly understand the strategy of adding to a strength, can anybody make sense of this for me, Braden? I mean, how does this make sense for a team that can't hit, that has some starting pitching depth issues, to use their resources to target even more bullpen arms?
I think Tony on Friday made perfect sense for this when he was on Gwynn and Chris. And when you start to think about it from his perspective, it makes a lot of sense now. So, what's the most glaring need for this team? Batting, right? Hitting. He said, and I agree with this, he goes, well, the guys that are currently not hitting on your team are the stars. The guys that are hitting on your team are the ones that are the ones that you would replace. So if you went and got a bat, who would they replace in the lineup? Because it's not like you're going to, sit down Fernando. You're not going to sit Machado. You're not going to sit Bogarts or Jackson Merrill. Those are the guys that have really been struggling. I think you can make somewhat of an argument about like the Castellanos, maybe
For
position,
me.
right? Yeah. Maybe you go get a catcher, but you don't have Luis Camposano right now. Right. Maybe he can be that void. So when, in terms of like getting a bat, Tony brought up the argument of, well, where is he going to play exactly? Unless you ship somebody off or you decide to make Laureano a bench piece, which I don't think anybody really wants to do. So if you are going to use your resources, why would you do it on a bat if the guys that aren't performing are the stars that you can't replace anyway? Then he talked about starting pitching. That's going to cost you a ton of money, ton of prospect capital. You maybe only be doing that for a rental. So if you're going to add, why not add to the strength of the bullpen? And because when that article came out, I thought the same thing. I'm like, what do they need to add to the bullpen for? But when Tony laid it out like that, to me, that makes a lot of sense of, it's not like your supporting cast isn't doing the job. Your stars aren't doing the job. So you can't replace them in a trade particularly. But, I guess if you get close to the deadline and Ty France and Andujar and all these guys start really starting to come back down to earth or maybe falter a little bit, then you would add a bat. But I thought that was an interesting perspective, Ben.
It's, which bats are going to be available with so many teams still in it is a big question. And I saw someone make the suggestion on social media, which usually I just dismiss them all, but depending on whether Jake Cronenworth comes back, and we don't know how long he's going to be out with that concussion. It looked pretty serious. Fernando Tatis Jr. has been stepping in, but you could always put him back in right field where he's a Platinum Glove winner, get a second baseman. And someone said, well, the Giants are looking pretty out of it, and guess who's playing really good second base? Could the Padres be interested in a reunion with Luis Arraez in the trade market before the trade deadline? There's
another. I thought about another former Padre too. That I don't know if they would have the. Could you imagine if AJ Preller traded for CJ Abrams at the deadline? I'm just saying. Like, I know. They got the Nationals this weekend, right? You're gonna have to listen to everybody talk. Every time CJ Abrams and James Wood hit a home run this weekend, you're gonna talk about how we lost the Soto trade. Could you imagine if he did that?
CJ Abrams will be pricey.
Right. I mean,
Arraez will be fairly cheap. If the Giants are out of it, he's on a one-year deal. He's going to be a free agent anyway. They'll probably look to pick up any prospect. Would we be interested, Woods? In batting average, it's one thing that he does.
We turned him into like a 280 hitter here, so I'm convinced Barry Bonds would.
We need a 280 hitter here.
That's true. You're right.
That's true. That's true.
That's a really good point.
That's true.
280 is the moon right now. I mean, 280 would be amazing. You're right. No, I mean, whatever. At this point, I'm going to throw whatever I can at the wall and see what sticks. And it's an awful odd strategy, but one, I think we're kind of saddled with it, right? At this point, like I always say it, this is the soup. You don't have a choice what goes in it. Here's the soup. You either eat the soup or you don't, and that's your option.
Ted likes that.
You know, that's been the thing. Like, so I'm just gonna sit every night. I'm gonna eat my soup, and that's it.
Was it fresh or frozen?
It's
soup
frozen.
First? It's frozen soup.
Yep.
Oh man.
No, I'm whatever, Ben. If Luis Ariz, fine. Just don't put him in the 2.
Is he going to bat second every time?
Just don't put him in the 2.
Is Craig Stammen going to move him up and down in the lineup?
Craig Stammen will move them all around.
Yeah, you know he will.
Teddy, what do you, I mean,
he'll have him playing third too. He'll mix it up.
Yeah. Teddy, what do you
Is
think?
that a rise in center field?
I hate to use cliches, but it really is the truth. I mean, if you get a pitcher, cliche number, I believe, 17, is that you cannot have enough pitching.
Right.
So you have that capital. And if then you need at the deadline to get a bat, you have that pitching capital, which is very, very valuable to use for not just some ham and egger, as Jerry used to call them, the Yanigans. You get a pretty solid bat for a pitcher, then you have the depth to be able to give up a pitcher from your bullpen,
right,
which they will certainly be able to do that. And you know, I hate to go back to a football coach, but when you look at Manny Machado and all these guys, it's the old football coaches say you got to dance with who brung you.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. These are your guys. These are our guys.
The soup. Yeah, they're
exactly.
the soup.
Exactly. And it's not going to change. And you're not going to have a 12-player deal in this day and age. The contracts are too complicated.
Yep.
And you have contracts with the Padres, quite frankly, in terms of Tatis and Manny that you cannot move.
Right.
And they are the face of the franchise. And there's public relations involved and everything else. You do dance with who brung you. These are the Padre veterans. You don't, during a slump, start making deals. You just don't. And you have to have patience in this game or you're going to look stupid because it's really hard. You and I, this group can get together in the NFL and study the draft and make some pretty darn good choices in the first 3 rounds. Most really good fans could do that. In baseball,
no.
Totally different.
Oh, that's a crap.
Totally different science. Very, very difficult. AJ, early on had his problems like everybody else. He was learning. He's pretty darn good now. Pretty darn good. In AJ, we trust. And with these veterans that are the veterans, you stay with them, and slumps are not alarms. They're not alarm bells. They're just not. It's part of baseball.
Chris, before we move on, any thoughts on targeting bullpen help before hitting potentially at the trade deadline?
I wasn't here Friday. I can't believe Tony Gwynn Jr. said something that great when I wasn't around. No, it makes what he said makes a lot of sense because I've thought kind of the same thing. I mean, if you're going to bring in a hitter, who are you going to put on the bench? And are you giving up on Jay Cronenworth? Are you going to Laureano? I mean, he had a bad month of May, but is that it? So you're not replacing too many of these guys. They're here to stay. So if you don't give up any runs, at least you can carry the game to extra innings till somebody scores.
All right, hold on to that thought. We'll revisit potential moves in a minute. It is our Epic Padres Roundtable brought to you by Epic Wings, always fresh, never frozen, here on 97.3 The Fan. Ted Leitner is our special panelist this week. And Ted, each week we do the 7th inning stretch, which is a non-Padres, non-baseball topic for us to discuss. So today's 7th inning stretch. Uncle Teddy, longtime spokesperson for DZ Aikens, old school New York deli.
First, we're talking about soup. Now we're talking about deli
sandwiches
really
in the college area. So today's 7th inning stretch question for everybody. Chris, I will start with you. Food related and simple. What is your all-time favorite sandwich?
I mean, the Ted Leitner is pretty damn good.
What is on the Ted Leitner?
It's piled high with pastrami
Ted
and
Leitner
corned beef, is it not?
Pastrami.
Yeah.
I chose American cheese because I don't get enough taste from Swiss. But with corned beef and pastrami, normally you should go with Swiss. As Debbie Aikens has told me many, many times, the owner, why did you pick American cheese? What is wrong with you? What is wrong with you? I'm just not a Swiss fan. I don't taste it as like provolone. I don't get enough bang from it, from some zest. So I like American, but that's a good sandwich, man.
But there's before I give Teddy any more a pub on his sandwich, there honestly is a sandwich out there named for me.
Oh, that's
the
right.
Crisello
That's
pulled pork
Cali
sandwich down there in
Cali Barbecue.
Cali Barbecue in Spring Valley. So
nice.
Try that one.
Is it just pulled pork? Is there anything else on it?
Did you get to
Coleslaw?
pick that
What
stuff?
do you got on it?
I didn't design it.
I know.
They had it in mind to design a sandwich called the Monte Crisello.
That's
hilarious.
clever. That's something that Ben would want to come with.
Okay, so they were going to do that. They were going to do that for me, and I thought, wow, that's really nice, guys. And then they decided that particular pairing of food wouldn't sell to their customers. So they said, we're going to give you a pulled pork sando instead. And I said, okay. So
Woods, I
Yes,
know
sir.
you have a man of simple tastes.
Yes.
Your favorite all-time sandwich.
Man, I tell you, I like a good chicken salad, man. I can't get enough
Chicken
of it. I can't
salad.
find the perfect. I still haven't found the perfect mix. I try it all everywhere I go.
Jersey Mike says their chicken salad
Is it back?
Yeah, it's back.
Oh,
yes.
yes.
I know you
just
love Jersey Mike.
You just made my day. It's like seasonal, and I'll probably eat before Monday. I'll probably have at least 4. That's no joke, because theirs is really good. Still not perfect, but a good chicken
the
salad
only thing I can
sandwich.
think of when you say chicken salad sandwich is Jack Nicholson in was it 5 Easy Pieces?
Exactly what it was. Yes,
Yeah.
ordering in a diner.
Can I get some toast? We don't have toast. You have chicken salad sandwich, don't you? Leave out the chicken salad. Anyway, it's a classic scene.
Braden, your favorite all-time sandwich.
My family has been, well, for the ones that have been here for a long time, that grew up in Little Italy with all the Italians, they used to always go to Mona Lisa's, continued the tradition to the deli down there. That's like a number one spot for us. And so at Mona Lisa's, I usually get the number 18. They all get like number 8 or whatever it is. But then I get the spicy sandwich that they have. I get it with you get the capicola on there, the spicy soppressata. I go with fresh mozzarella. It's a little bit of an upgrade. Put it on focaccia bread sometimes down there at Mona Lisa's, but I can't really go wrong with any sandwich down there at Mona Lisa's. That's kind of my favorite spot.
And then having watched all the Sopranos, maybe 10 times, that when we say capicola,
Gabagool.
with a gabagool.
The gabagool.
Gabagool.
Well, Ted, you have a sandwich named after you, but you've also traveled for years with the Padres, the food cities, New York, everywhere. I mean, have you found anything better? What's your favorite?
Well, I didn't know we could do this, because it would have been that Philly cheesesteak we had.
Oh,
that's
that's
my number
true.
one
That
sandwich
was
of
an
all time.
amazing
And it's
cheesesteak,
not.
yeah.
Where was it?
Angelo's. Angelo's Philly cheesesteak. That was
Oh my
pretty
God,
amazing.
I dream about it.
We used to go when the Padres stayed in their hotel in Manhattan at that time, and it was the Grand Hyatt on 42nd in Lexington, and then they moved over east toward 7th Avenue. And so that was where the Carnegie Delicatessen was.
Ooh.
And New Yorkers don't say deli. They say Carnegie Delicatessen because it is authentic. And then a block and a half away was the Stage Delicatessen, where I almost punched Jackie Mason,
Wow.
the entertainer, who was standing at the bar, and my wife at
Because
the
of
time.
Caddyshack 2?
I was there.
Yeah.
I was there.
Terrible movie, Jackie.
I was
Jeez.
there with my wife, and she was and still is incredibly gorgeous. And Jackie Mason just stood there staring at her the entire time. And I said, I don't need to take this from that little guy. I can take that guy.
Yeah.
I'm bigger than this guy. I can kick this guy's butt. I don't take to that. So I kind of sauntered over. And I said, Jackie, I'm telling you what the San Diego Padres are here. Oh, and I said, you're looking at my wife all the time. She's really beautiful. I know that. I know that. But give it a rest, okay? That was the conversation. That was the
He
conversation.
was leering.
Yeah, but when you went to the Carnegie, and I would go with Bob Scanlon, I go with a bunch of people, and sometimes with a couple of players who had never seen anything like the Carnegie Delicatessen, because the sandwiches, when I say they were a foot high, they were a foot high. You could not, you had to break them down and take some of the meat off. It was absolutely unbelievable. Speaking of corned beef and pastrami, they had the Woody Allen. At what was the Ted Leitner at D.C. Aikens was the Woody Allen in Without the Baggage.
Right. I was going to say, I was trying to think of a clever quip there.
Yeah, and I'm a big Woody Allen fan, but then I became not so
much
big of a Woody Allen fan. I did love his line about restaurants was that the food here is terrible and the portions are so small. Huh? That was his ultimate. And that he had a date in New York City, and he was in a cab, and she was so gorgeous he could barely keep his eyes on the meter. That's Woody Allen. That's Woody Allen. And the Woody Allen was corned beef and pastrami, and it literally was over a foot high.
It's crazy.
And their meats, they made their own smoked meats and
Cured it
was
all
just
themselves, yeah.
the greatest of all time. And then ever since myself and Dave Marcus and Jesse in that era started wearing the black armband when they closed it forever.
Oh man.
They closed because the woman who won it from her husband in the divorce didn't want to work. So instead of selling it and having to sell the name, she was licensing restaurants in Chicago, and in Madison Square Garden and in Vegas, and she got those licensing fees. So she didn't sell it; she just closed it, and that was the end of the greatest, in my opinion, deli of all time.
All right, I'll finish up. And I know Woods is expecting me to say something like lobster roll.
Yeah, something fancy.
Very fancy. But the best all-time sandwich, just overall, is just a really good grilled cheese.
Yeah.
It's always going to be
a
really good grilled cheese sandwich. Simple, delicious, always. All right, we got a few minutes left. The Padres are on an off day. Are we expecting tomorrow, will there be some sort of shakeup move, whether it's a roster change, a coaching change of some sort? And if so, what could the Padres do going into their series in Washington? Woods, will there be a shakeup at all before the start of the series?
No, I was kind of racking my brain during our show for the last shakeup, right, that you had for the San Diego Padres. I feel like we're more likely to go the opposite route, maybe hang on a little bit too long to maybe somebody that's not contributing. So I don't know. The answer is I don't think there will be. Do I think there should be? Sure.
Anything,
why not?
Something?
Change something, right?
Yeah, I mean, I never believe in just making a move, Ted,
Right, to make a move.
to make a move's sake.
That's been part of baseball forever. Firing managers,
hiring,
early in the
rehiring.
season, late in the season, window dressing, what I call false hustle nonsense. Well, we had to do something, and that's basically the meetings. That's the meetings of the front office.
Yeah.
We got to do something.
Got to do something.
We got it. We got to show the fans we're into this and we're doing something. So let's do something. No, why don't you do nothing? Because it doesn't do any good. But it's the kind of thing by rote you go and do it. Once again, we go back to guys like Bum Phillips, dance with who brung you, and. Changes don't mean anything. They don't mean anything. And you don't have guys who are better hitters than the guys you have had and are now slumping. I just think it's window dressing. It doesn't mean anything to me.
Chris, your stat about Chase Bowen certainly gives pause. You know,
Sure.
if you're striking out a ton at the minor league level, you're probably going to really be unsuccessul at the major league level.
We strike out a lot at the major league level already. So
well, I mean,
fits right in.
And we talked about it a couple of weeks ago. You know, Ethan Salas remains very hot in the minor leagues. Freddie Fermin hasn't gotten a hit in more than 20 plate appearances. He's hitting like 140 now this season.
That's all Campy got last year, by the way. It was 21
Yeah,
plate appearances,
I mean,
and he was persona non grata.
We've seen so many teams reach down and promote top prospects this season, a lot of them with good results. Is there risks to it? We discussed those, you know, of advancing a guy too soon before he's ready. AJ Preller told us that he wants to see more from Ethan Salas, but I don't know that there's a lot of argument that Ethan Salas wouldn't be better than what the Padres are getting right now.
He's mashing
behind the plate, and he continues to hit
again
at the AA level.
That was
right
like
now.
3 weeks ago. We talked to AJ, and AJ's like, "Nah, you give him some more time." I'm like, "All right, well, more time's passed now." You're slumping. Is there pressure on him maybe to go? Hey, why not? Because we've all of us have heard. He's ready defensively today.
I asked Tony that.
Yeah.
On
Speaking
one
of
of
Tony's
one of our
probably rolling his
shows.
eyes
He
right
is.
now.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah, now Tony's he's thinks all this stuff through. But I said, can we ruin the guy really if we bring him up for a month and
He said
hits
yes.
190? And he said yes.
He said
And
yes.
I said, well, then I guess there's a risk involved. We don't have enough time to get into the hitting coach, and I've heard you guys talk about it on the morning show, and we brought it up a bunch of
I
times.
get asked about it so many times.
We can go through all the stories of all the pitching coaches the Padres have let go, and none of them have changed a thing.
That's a separate hour show.
Yeah,
It really is.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
But I
do
just
the
want to
10 o'clock
leave
hour?
everybody with the thought, maybe, if this keeps up for another couple of weeks, a month, it's not that I don't think Sousa's doing a great job, but maybe it's just time for another voice. Maybe they need a voice that they haven't heard yet. We cannot continue down this road. I don't think anybody wants to, till the All-Star break and beyond.
Right.
So, I mean, the Phillies, I thought it was silly that they fired Robbie Thompson so early. It's
Look at him
worked out
now.
pretty well.
Yep.
I'm not saying it's going to
Has it worked out, or is the fact that they got to play the Rockies and Giants and a bunch of lousy teams
and the Padres.
worked
Yeah.
out for them?
Well, you're not wrong, Braden. I'm not trying to fire the hitting coach. I'm saying that you can't get rid of everybody on the team.
No.
Maybe another voice is needed, something new. Because everything, I'm sure they're trying everything right now.
I do wonder if Nick Castellanos' time is drawing to a close. My worry would be they love him in that clubhouse. He's certainly not a negative there. He's a positive,
huge positive there.
influence in the Padres clubhouse, but
And that matters.
defensively, I saw a video just showing like
the Toddy
the
thing.
one
Oh
that
my
Fernando
God.
Tatis Jr. would have gotten to easily, 80% catch percentage, and Castellanos isn't getting it out there. He's a liability defensively. He's not hitting at the plate. As much as you may love him, there's only so long that he can remain on the major league roster before you find someone else. I mean, you can pick up a replacement level player who plays defense. You play Bryce Johnson out there, you at least have some defense. If he's not going to hit any clutch home runs, is that where you make the change? Braden?
I mean, I think that's just like the easiest change that you could potentially make. I mean, like all of these ideas that we're throwing out there are just us basically yelling uncle after 4 weeks of doing the roundtable and trying to figure out what's wrong with the offense. I mean, we don't get paid to do that. That's not like there's guys down there in the Padres organization get paid to figure out what's wrong with the offense. To go back to the Ethan Salas thing, can you ruin a player? That I feel like that's the case for guys that have always had success that have never dealt with adversity. I mean, Ethan Salas has dealt with adversity already, and he's been challenged a lot and he's responded. So I feel like he might not be a victim of that because they brought him up super early and he struggled as a 17, 18-year-old. He missed all of last year with an injury. He came back from that, and now he's like really starting to hit his stride. I feel like he's passed the adversity test, and that's kind of the big thing that you're worried about with some of those guys at the lower level. But to go back to what you're saying about like a move, I really don't think Steven Souza, if you change him, it's going to make that big of a difference. At the end of the day, the guys that you pay a lot of money to carry the team are not carrying the team, and they're not playing well. And until they start playing well, it's going to be tough.
I will say that I'm starting to be more in favor of bringing up Ethan Salas because no one's going to expect him to put the team on his back. He'll probably bat 8th or 9th if you put him in the order.
But if you bring him up now when your offense is absolutely terrible, then people will absolutely expect him to be the savior. I think a softer landing spot is if they start hitting a little bit.
But I think the idea of just kind of some youthful energy coming up, a different face. Teddy, remember when Benito Santiago was a rookie and hitting streak? I mean, that was a pretty electric debut for a catcher. And he was young at the time, too. When he came up, he was very young. We're about 20 years old, I think, when he first came up. Yeah.
Very much so. And his name came up the other day in a discussion I was having on my podcast with Jim Laslovic about how great the Padre fans are. And I even told the fans, I got no reason to say this. I've had my career, and it doesn't matter to me. I can really be as honest as I was back in those days. And Benito was the only Padre that comes to my mind that I can remember who was booed. There was a big, big lumbering reliever who would come in really slowly. I forget his name. Age is doing that to my brain. I can't remember, but those are the only couple of guys ever. And Benny had great talent, but very difficult calling games and a lot of other things. And the pitcher used to give him a lot of gas, Trevecki. And then, he'd go out to the mound and directly say, get off my mound. That kind of thing. You got nothing to say. You have nothing to say that I want to hear. It was that kind of dynamic, but he did have great talent. But patience is so important in baseball. And I would never tell AJ that. AJ knows that. Let me give you a stat that I never heard before, ever. I was dining with Padre executives from the early 80s. And one of them who was in the power situation to hire and fire. Go back to when they fired Roger Craig. And this executive said to me, what is overlooked with us, with all the crap that the organization had to put up with Jack McKeon in terms of fighting with the business people and vice versa, and wanting to be manager and general manager, and what really was difficult times for the Padres in the front office. He thought that firing Roger Craig, who went on to the Giants, had great success, was a mistake. They should have been more patient, and it changed Padre history. Yeah. And yes, under Dick Williams and McKeon, give them credit, they and Ballard Smith at that time, the CEO, they built that 84 team, and that started it all, and they built the foundation. It was very, very important, but it was an interesting point that we should have been more patient. That goes for managers, coaches, and Ethan Salas's.
Teddy, really appreciate you coming in. We really enjoyed that.
I loved it.
Do it again.
Lots of fun. Yeah, hopefully we'll get you back again later in our season. We will be off next Thursday. We got early Padres baseball in Philadelphia, so no roundtables for 2 weeks when our guest panelist, I believe, will be recently fired Padres hitting coach Steven Souza Jr.
Oh, that would be amazing.
Just kidding. That's it for us. For Uncle Teddy Leitner, for Stephen Woods, Braden Sopretin, and Chris Ello, I'm Ben Higgins. Thanks for joining us for our epic Padres Roundtable, brought to you by Epic Wings, always fresh, never frozen on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. So long, everybody.